found in the 5th chapter of John, you'll see these words. After this, there was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now there is at Jerusalem by the sheep market a pool, which is called in the Hebrew tongue Bethesda, having 5 porches. In these lay a great multitude of impotent folk, of blind, halt, withered, waiting for the moving of the water. For an angel went down at a certain season into the pool and troubled the water. Whosoever then, after the troubling of the water, stepped in, was made whole of whatsoever disease he had. And a certain man was there which had an infirmity for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lie and knew that he had been now in that condition a long time, he said unto him, Wilt thou be made whole? The impotent man answered him, Sir, I have no man, when the water is troubled, to put me into the pool, but while I am coming, another steppeth down before me. Jesus said unto him, Rise, take up thy bed, and walk. And immediately the man was made whole, and took up his bed, and walked, and on the same day was the Sabbath. This is the word of the Lord, and for just a few moments as we celebrate this pastor's 20th anniversary, I just want to talk about real church. I want to talk about real church. I want to just have a conversation about real church. I'm at the Enon Tabernacle Baptist Church in Philadelphia. It's in the Germantown, Mount Airy section of Philadelphia. And we like to celebrate that we are the oldest African American Baptist church in the Germantown section of Philadelphia. And we maintain that we are 1876. Next year will be 150 years old. And we maintain that we are the oldest African American Baptist church in the Germantown section of Philadelphia. Amen. Well, I've got a good friend, Pastor Bruce Alyn, who was the pastor of the Mount Zion Baptist Church around the corner. Bruce Alyn is probably one of the most intelligent pastors. I mean, when you see him, he always has a book in his hand. He is incredible reader and thinker. So he had the nerve to do some research in his own church history. And he looked in and found some documentation from the Mount Zion Church that says the Mount Zion Church in Germantown was founded in 1871. So then that would debunk our claim that we are the oldest African American Baptist church, because 1871 is 5 years. And so I was holding on to this. I got called to the Enon Church about 31 years ago, and one of the things they told me when I was interviewing with the deacons, this is the oldest African American Baptist church in the Germantown section, and I believed it. And so then Pastor Alyn had just gotten to Mount Zion, and he did his study, and he came up with his 1871, and now, as we would call it, controversy. And so they were claiming to be the oldest, and we were claiming to be the oldest, but then I did some digging of my own. And one of the things that we found out, there was a discrepancy in the history of the Mount Zion Church, because while it is true, there was a charter in 1871 that started the Mount Zion Church. The first pastor of the Mount Zion Baptist Church was not put in place until 1889. And so for the first 18 years of Mount Zion Church, they were technically a gathering of Christians, but they had not called a pastor just yet. And everybody know a church without a pastor ain't a church. And so we still claim to be, y'all wondering where I'm going. We can talk about what the church is and whether the church has a pastor. I believe that when God places a man or woman as a pastor in a church, that is the beginning of a relationship. It's a unique relationship. It's a love relationship, but it is a particular relationship that God is calling in to birth what we know as the church. But a church is not just a church because there's a steeple out top and some people gathered together. You can debate with me or not whether you accept my definition of the Mount Zion and the Enon discussion. But what I will suggest to you that just because there's music inside and hollering inside doesn't mean it's a real church. Just because there's a gathering of people, it doesn't mean it's a real church. In fact, D.L. Moody, that great missionary and evangelist, once said, the church is on mission. And where there is no mission, there is no church. If the people of God are not doing the work of God, if the people of God are not impacting the people, if people are not being saved, if people are not being lifted, if people are not being changed, you might be a good club, but it ain't a real church. But I do want you to know that I believe that we're celebrating today 20 years of a real church. And if you won't get mad at me, I want to invite you to think with me for a little while about what that really means. What is a real church? You know this story. It's an interesting story. It's called, this place was called Bethesda. And at Bethesda, something strange happened. It was called Bethesda, and there was these porches where people would come, and they would come to lie there and sit there waiting on what was, some thought it was mythology, some thought it was real, that an angel would come down and trouble the water. Now, when the angel came down and troubled the water, then whoever got in first was healed. So lots of people knew that healing was taking place, but it was only taking place for certain people at certain times. So everybody hung out around there in hopes of getting touched by the troubled water. So Jesus shows up, and when Jesus shows up, he sees the scene and recognizes something's wrong with this scene. While somebody is getting help, there ain't a lot of people getting helped. And only one person is getting help. So Jesus shows up, and just by showing up, he was critiquing the present ideology. But then he comes across this man, and he realizes the man has been there for 38 long years. Jesus looks at the man and says, "Do you want to be healed?" And after he says that, then the man goes into a slightly an excuse as to why he's in his condition, because he can't make up his mind what the situation is, because he says, every time I'm trying to go down, I don't have anybody to help me. Well, are you trying to help yourself, or do you want somebody to do something for you? That's a whole nother discussion. So then Jesus finally says, "Take up your bed and walk." The man takes up his bed and he comes back walking, and now he has a testimony. I want to suggest to you that what's in here both is the problem and the possibility of a real church. And I want to celebrate that I do believe this is what's been happening in Delaware, because God brought Curry and Ezion together. And if we can continue to do this, then we might be able to make a real difference in the world if we'll be real church. But a couple of things come up, and I'm going to get out of your way. First of all, if we're going to be real church is prophetic ministry. Prophetic ministry. Let me see if I can make it plain. Jesus showed up. He came and looked at the situation. When Jesus came up, he was showing up as a prophet. You see, there was a type of church. The pool of Bethesda is a type of church because the people were gathering and somebody was getting help. But by Jesus showing up, he was doing what real prophetic ministry is, and that is critiquing the present ideology, speaking truth to power, and where power has no clue, offering a more imaginable social future. You know, one of the challenges that has happened, and I thank God for men like your pastor who have stood up, and that is, over our last 20 to 30 years, somebody came in and switched the definition of prophetic. It used to mean that we preach or we critique the present ideology, look at it and critique it, speak truth to power, and where power has no clue, offer a more imaginable social future. But when TBN got in on it, and when everybody got on TV, and when social social media began to define what church is, it moved from being that to being fortune telling. And so there are far too many people that think prophetic is fortune telling, but they've turned prophetic into pathetic. Prophetic is when you look at what's going on and critique it and challenge it to be better. Jesus steps into this situation recognizing that while somebody's getting help, a lot of people are not getting help, and he shows up to make it a different way. Can I stop right there? If the church is the church, we've got to be more than a crowd. If the church is the church, we've got to be more than Holy Ghost happy hour. But if the church is going to be the church, we've got to be a place where people can come and something can happen in their lives. Am I talking to anybody in here whose testimony is this, that you showed up in this place and the word got a hold to you? You showed up in this place and the gospel gripped you. You showed up in this place and something happened in your life. I don't know about you, but I bless God for real church. Because if it had not been for real church, I wouldn't be where I am. I wouldn't know what I know. I wouldn't have what I have. I wouldn't be going where I'm going. I thank God for real church. There it is. There it is. The real church impacts people and has a real impact on their lives. In fact, let me see if I can make it plain, because there is a difference between the omnipresence of God and the manifest presence of God. I need to use big words because I know who Pastor Curry is, so I need to use some 50-cent words, but I want to remind you there is a difference between the omnipresence of God and the manifest presence of God. The omnipresence of God is just a true theological statement that means God is everywhere and at all times. And I do believe that. I know what David says, even if I make my bed in hell, Lord, thou art there. And so I understand the omnipresence, but the manifest presence is different. Omnipresence means in a very real sense God is everywhere, but the manifest presence means the kabod of God, means the weighted glory of God. And the kabod of God, the weighted glory of God, that ain't everywhere. That is where God is pleased. That is where God is praised. That is where when the praises go up, the blessings come down. That and where God shows up, change happens. There it is, and that is prophetic ministry. Prophetic ministry, real ministry is prophetic ministry, but it's also a ministry of mercy. I do like the name of the place. They had the name right because it was Bethesda, house of mercy. Bethlehem, house of bread. This was house of mercy. And in fact, if the church is going to be the church, it's got to be a place of mercy, but not only mercy, but grace. And the reason I know it's a place of mercy and grace, it says that there were 5 porches. 5, and I know you know because the pastor has been here for 20 years. I know you know that the number 5 is the number of grace. And I know you know that Bethesda means mercy or house of mercy. And so when you put it all together, these 5 porches and the Bethesda, it means it's a place of grace and mercy. And that is what a real church is. A real church is a place where you can come and receive grace and mercy. Am I talking to anybody in here that is grateful that this was not a museum, but it is a ministry, that this is not just a place for people to come and show who's who, but it is a place for the whosoever will. I don't know about you, but I want to be in a church that accepts everybody, because I don't know about you, if it had not been for the Lord on my side. Can I stay there for a while? Grace and mercy. And he called the list. But the list is where the shout is, because he says that there were the blind and the halt and the withered, and he names, if you go through, they name 4 conditions. Now this is what blows my mind, because it names 4 conditions, but there are 5 porches. There are 4 conditions, but there are 5 porches, and that's what makes me shout. Because just in case you didn't think there was a place for you, just in case your condition wasn't called, just in case you're not blind or you're not halt or you don't have palsy, Jesus said, I got another one over here. And it doesn't have a name on it, but it's got your name on it. Thank God it's a place for everybody. Oh, I wish I could stay there for a while. Because that's what this is all about. It's a ministry of mercy. It's a ministry of grace. It's a ministry that, and I don't know about you, but I want the folk that other churches don't want. I want that. Give me the brothers that pants are hanging down to here. Come on in. Give me the brothers that struggling with taking their hat off. We're going to help you with that. But if you can come on in, give me the folk that just got off of work. Give me the folk that are struggling. Give me the folk that smell like last night and more. Give me the folk that are struggling, because the God I serve, He's able. Can I stop right there? I know, Pastor, that you have received this. Do you know that there is gospel in the gossip? Let me see if I can make it plain. You know, when you have a church, when you got a church like this, I know that you've received this type of testimony, Pastor. Somebody's going to come up to you. Pastor, you don't know who's in your church. Pastor, I came up to your church, and you don't know who's in your church because I saw. And you got some folk in your church that used to be ex this, and you got some church in your folk. You know, I love when people come and tell on my members to me, and they'll come up, Pastor, you don't know who's up in your church. You got some of everybody up in your church. Well, you got somebody in your church that used to be in jail. You got somebody, I can't believe you, Pastor. You got some deacons that used to be down on Broad Street, and you got some ushers that used to dance, and they kept on telling, but they don't understand the gospel is in the gossip. You need to understand that what you are telling me is proving my point, that there is a God who is able to pick you up, a God who is able to turn you around, a God who is able to give you another chance. Can I stop right there? Is there anybody glad He's not just the God of a second chance? Because I used up my second chance in 1975. I thank God He's a God of another chance. It's grace and mercy. There it is. It's grace and mercy. It's a prophetic ministry. It's a ministry of mercy. But then Jesus shows up to make corrective measures. Because Jesus peeps the card, He said, there's a problem here. Because the Bible says that when the angel came down and troubled the water, then the first person in got healed. And that's good as long as you're the first person. And I think the millennials in here would call this ableist. This is ableist, meaning you're able to get in first. You're closest to the water. But if we're going to be a real church, we've got to be a ministry of equity or equality. No, that didn't work for you. You see, what happens here is whoever was closest to the water got help. But what about the people that are not close to the water? You see, in this particular church, before Jesus showed up, then if you're the preacher's kid, you're going to be all right. Or if you're the deacon's child, you're going to be all right. Or if somebody knows who your parents are, you're going to be all right. But what about the people that don't know who your parents are? What about the people that don't know? If you know how to act in church, you're going to have access. But if you don't have the right hookup, then you're not going to have it. Let me see if I can make it plain. Because you do know that sometimes there are far too many churches that only want to deal with the fan family. Let me see if I got some church folk in here. You know what the fan family is. If you've grown up in church like I did, I'm 61 years old, and I've grown up in church. My daddy was a preacher, my granddaddy was a preacher, my great-granddaddy was a preacher. I've grown up in church. And the church I grew up in was not pretty like this and did not have air conditioning like this. Now, I grew up in church where we had fans. And some of y'all quit faking, you know. Y'all know. And then if you grew up in church post 1968, I can tell you at least 3 fans that was in your church. Number 1, you had Martin Luther King. Y'all remember Martin Luther King? Every one of us had Martin Luther King. And then number 2, you had Jesus in Gethsemane. Y'all know I'm telling the truth. You had Jesus in Gethsemane. And then number 3, you had the Fan family. Now y'all remember the Fan family. It was a family of 4. It was a man. Right next to him was his Claire Huxtable looking wife. She had the nice hair. And in front of them was a little boy. And the little boy had good hair. And then next to him was his sister. And she had white gloves on. And she was sitting there. And that's the Fan family. And everybody wanted the Fan family because that was Mr. Williams. He had a good job, and Miss Williams didn't even need to go to work because Mr. Williams' job had allowed her to stay home. And because she was able to stay home, Tisha and Tyrone, they were nice little kids, and they were always right, and they were always dressed, and they never gave you any problems. And Tyrone always had his Easter speech. This is what Easter means to me. Jesus Christ died for me. They know how to do the Fan family. But come here, Toto, you are not in Kansas anymore. And the Fan family ain't the only family in this church. Sometimes you got grandparents trying to raise their grandchildren because their daughter has been strung out and the kids don't know how to act and they're wondering how to get involved. And you got to make room for them too. You got to help people get to the water. There it is. We got to make room. Can't just be the people we like. Can't just be the people who have access. But then I know somebody is getting mad at me. I'm sorry, I like to jump. But if we're going to be a real church, I know the pastor said we're going to have a prophetic ministry. If we're going to be a real church, we've got to be a ministry of mercy. If we're going to be a real church, it's got to be a ministry of equity. Make room for everybody to get to the water. But I know what you're thinking. I'm being too soft on sin. Because it also says that we have to have a ministry of accountability. It's in the text. It's in the text. Because when Jesus showed up, he saw the man, and the text says, and seeing the man had been there for 38 long years. Jesus said to him, wilt thou be made whole? Now, you and I have been raised to hear this in a Victorian voice. And because we love Jesus as presented in movies to us over the last 50 years, you hear him being nice. So you'll hear Jesus coming up to the man, wilt thou be made whole? That's how you hear it, and that's how you've read it. Wilt thou be made whole? Almost as if he is coddling the man, almost as if he is saying to the man, oh, poor boy. Do you really want to be made whole? But I suggest to you that you wash off that colonial understanding of the text. And I suggest that you read it and read the words, because the text says Jesus, seeing the man, had been there for 38 long years. And in that condition a long time. I suggest to you that Jesus was a bit more incredulous. When Jesus came up to the man, it wasn't, wilt thou be made? He was like, dude. Do you want to be helped? I suggest to you that Jesus would say, it's been 38 years. And I know it ain't right, and I know the system is stacked against you, but after 38 years, I know you flicked it, but you could have got a little closer. But after 38 years, Jesus is pressing the man. Now, y'all gonna get mad at me, but remember, the same Jesus that I'm talking about is also the same Jesus that told a blind man to go somewhere. Do you remember when Jesus, it's going to be just a few more chapters, he saw a blind man and told the blind man, put mud on his eyes, and then said, go to the pool of Siloam. Jesus, how you going to tell a blind man to go anywhere? And Jesus' position was this: he wasn't born blind out here. He figured out how to get out here. So however you got out here, get to the pool. You figured out how to get to this part. Y'all looking at me like I'm crazy. How come you can take a bus, get a trans pass, and take another bus to get to your grandmother's house to borrow $20, but the church van got to come to pick you up to come to church? Y'all gonna get mad at me. If you can chase after your sin, you can chase after God. If you can run after your mess, you can run after God. The same way you chased your stuff, you ought to learn how to chase after God. Sometimes we've got to challenge ourselves in here. Let me see if I can make it plain. Pastor, I know you've heard this because I've heard it. Some of y'all will come up to us after church and it sounds like this. Oh, Pastor, you were on my toes today. Oh, you killed me today. Next Sunday, then they come back up. Oh, Pastor, you was on my toes today. Oh, you killed me today, Pastor. Next week, same person, back up at the altar. Oh, Pastor, you was killing my toes today. Oh, you came on in, Pastor. Fourth week, Pastor, when you gonna move your feet? Next time they come up, at what point are you going to move your feet so that the same stuff is not hitting you every week? If you are really coming to church, something ought to be changing. I know after a while you ought not come in complaining, but come in saying, look where the Lord has brought me from. There it is. So it's a ministry of accountability. But if we have a real church and it's a ministry of accountability, then it is going to be a ministry of transformation. It's a ministry of transformation, and it's in the text. Because look at the text. Jesus says, take up your bed and walk. Now, I love this. Well, and if I'll be honest, I love it today because I understand the full implication. When I first read it, I wanted Jesus to say, throw away your bed and walk. Just throw it away. Because I'm kind of a closet Pentecostal. And I wanted Jesus to throw my bed away and let me walk. Because the implication of take up your bed, Jesus said, take up your bed and walk. But Jesus, if I take up my bed and walk, then I'm walking around with this bed. And everybody that sees me is going to know that I was the one that been there 38 long years. And Jesus, I would rather be like some church people and have Holy Ghost amnesia. I would rather be healed but forget about what I used to be. Because I'd rather no one know where you brought me from. Y'all gonna get mad at me today, but I think you need to know that the reason he said take up his bed is because he said, now I'm gonna need you to tell your story. That's the whole point of this. The whole reason that I showed up here is to show you that the healing is in me. Now, after I heal you, don't forget what I did for you, and just to keep your testimony, walk around with your bed, and when somebody asks you, how did you get off your bed, don't start talking about your HBCU, don't start talking about what fraternity you're in, don't start talking about what somebody did. Tell somebody it was nothing but the grace of God. Tell somebody it was God that came into your life. It was God that touched you. It was God that made a way out of no way. Am I talking to anybody in here tonight? Is there anybody in here that can admit you got a bed to pick up? That God came by your house, and that God picked you up, and that God turned you around. I need you to know how he told it. This man said it was Jesus. And that's the thing I think we need to remember. That when people ask you, how did you get where you are? Don't just talk about self-help, but make sure somebody knows that it was Jesus Christ. And I don't know about you, but I know that right now in the city of Philadelphia, if we ever need to tell people about Jesus, it's right now, because there seems to be this effort to mold God into just being the creator and just being the one who made everything. And we are wrestling in the city with an understanding of God that makes room for everybody. And I need you to know I'm open to everybody coming to him. But the only way you can get in there is that you must come in at the door. And that means when I tell somebody where the Lord has brought me from, I've got to tell them it was Jesus. And that's why at the end of the day, if we really are a real church, when we stand behind this desk and when we sing our songs, before we sit down, Jesus ought to come up. Let me try it again. I know, and I never thought I'd get to the age where I would begin any sentence with these young preachers. But since I'm here, let me go on and say it. I'm troubled by some of these preachers that want to preach about everything but Jesus. I'm troubled with people who won't bring up where the healing came from. I'm troubled with people who know all the implications of the Old Testament, but they never seem to get to the cross. Because, Brother Pastor, what I was told is that if it's real preaching, no matter if you're preaching in Genesis or Revelation, at some point you need to cut across the field and remind people that he prayed in a garden till sweat like drops of blood came from his head. But you don't stop there. We've got to tell them that he was tried in an unjust court, but he never said a mumbling word. They beat him and they bruised him, put a crown of thorns on his head, but he never said a word. But we don't stop there. Tell them that they strung him up on an old rugged cross, put nails in his hands and put nails in his feet before you finish preaching. And I believe, Curry, for 20 years you've been telling them that after he was nailed in his hands, he died until the moon took a hemorrhage and went down in blood. He died until a centurion said, surely this man was the Son of God. And then they buried him. And when they buried him in a borrowed tomb. And the reason he borrowed it is anything you don't plan on keeping, you don't buy it, you just borrow it. He borrowed it on Friday, and then he borrowed it on Saturday, but then early Sunday morning he got up with all power in his hands. And because he got up, we can get up. Because he got up, we have the victory. Because he got up, we gonna be all right. Well, I'm getting ready to take my seat, but if I'm in a real church, I dare you to give Jesus some praise. If we're in a real church, I dare you open up your mouth, say yes, yes, yes. Isn't he all right? Isn't he all right? I used to hear the old preachers say, ain't he all right? And I said to myself, I ain't gonna say, ain't he all right? It's bad English. I got 4 degrees. I ain't gonna say,